So welcome again, everyone. We are going to explore doubt, one of the five hindrances, and faith. So for the roadmap today, we will have a guided meditation. And then Emily will graciously share mindful movement, will lead mindful movement. And then I will share thoughts about doubt and about faith and have a reflection. And at the end, I think we'll have time for sharing and questions and answers because these topics are just so susceptible and almost beg for us to talk about them, to share about them. So we'll start to practice. So taking a comfortable seat, a dignified posture. With your feet on the chair or cushion. Feet on the floor, And let's take 3 or so long and purposeful breaths all the way in and all the way out to the very end of the exhale. And feeling maybe for the first time today how the breath moves the body, moves in the body, and how just a very few purposeful breaths can cause a shift. Taking a moment to release tension in the eyes, eyelids, and eyeballs. The muscles surrounding the eyes. The lips, the tongue, the jaw. The cheeks, and feeling into the shoulders and allowing them to drop. Inviting a letting go around the belly. And allowing the attention to roam around the body to notice any tight places, any constrictions. The goal isn't to fix them, but to warmly invite a letting go, if that's possible. And to warmly allow whatever constriction, whatever sense is left. And sending the message to the entire body that it is welcome just as it is. It's included. It's loud. I invite you to attend to the movement of breathing. Breathing this breath in this moment, right here. Settling the mind with the breath in this moment, right here. This breath, this breath. When something arises in awareness in the heart or mind or body, just allowing. We're practicing not clinging, not holding on, allowing. And when that thing is no longer dominating your attention, returning to the breath. Feeling the breath and knowing that you are feeling the breath. allowing whatever you sense arise, recognizing it, allowing it without getting caught in it, and noticing it pass away. Presence with what is. When you notice that you've become lost in thinking, be aware, notice how the body feels, letting the thought go and returning to this breath and this body in the present moment. So, friends, doubt is one of the five hindrances, and it is considered the most threatening of the five. Faith is central to the dharma, to life. The Buddha said, faith is the beginning of all good things. Sharon Salberg wrote a wonderful book called Faith about 25 years ago. And she says, no matter what we encounter in life, it is faith that enables us to try again, to trust again, to love again. So, just to give an overview of the five hindrances, of which doubt is one, they are sensual desire, hatred or ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and agitation, and doubt. And these hinder meditative practice. They impede our clarity, our concentration, our clear presence, our connectedness to life. But they aren't hindrances in and of themselves. If we turn to them with mindfulness and with clear recognition, they will no longer hinder. They'll just be part of life. They're only hindrances when they impede our awareness and when they catch us. Every human life experiences the five hindrances over and over. So they're not a mistake. And as long as they're seen clearly, they aren't a problem. When we can realize, recognize, oh, ill will, resentment, that's what's happening. This is what ill will feels like right now. Then we can grow. We can work with it and grow from it. Then the ill will, for instance, has been transformed from a hindrance to simply ill will. It's just one part of the human experience. And that is the power of mindfulness. It transforms us from not seeing clearly, from being governed by desire or ill will or doubt, to being free and working with those things, aware that they're there. And when we're aware and we mindfully investigate doubt, for example, we can figure out how to manage it skillfully. We have a certain freedom from it, and we gain a certain wisdom. So, by definition, that quality or mind state isn't hindering our clear seeing and our path. And of course, they're not any of them, something that comes and goes and is over with forever. They recur over and over in the heart, mind, body. And the practice is to meet them with clear recognition. Please mute yourselves. So it takes a kind of stepping back to recognize, oh, hostility is arising. That's what this feeling is. Yep, no doubt about it. It's felt in the stomach or the chest, the throat, wherever. And noticing that it's happening in the body helps us be mindful about a hindrance, just as it does with any mind state. It's a clear, calm seeing. It's not reacting like, what the hell is wrong with me? Oh my God, I shouldn't be like this. I'm such a miserable person. I gotta fix this. That's not it. Although, if we lapse into self judgment, which is a kind of ill will towards ourselves, we can follow that up with a clear recognition. Mindfulness will let us know what's happening. And then we have a certain calm and peace just from the recognition. The emotional charge from the hostility, for example, is ameliorated by the recognition. Oh, this is what's happening. We might want to remember it happens to everyone. So we're not averse or hostile toward our ill will. We're not afraid of it. The mind, by knowing and recognizing, takes power from it. So mindfulness involves two primary attentional faculties. One, sati, is translated by Gil Fronsdale as awareness. And sapayana is clear recognition. And both of them together are mindfulness. So awareness or sati is just having a sense of what's happening right now, of being attuned with the sense doors and the sixth sense door being the mind. But it's not thinking. It doesn't involve recognition. It's almost like pre-recognition. It's just being with this experience. And the second element, clear recognition, is knowing what's happening in a non-reactive way. So usually we lump both those things together and call them mindfulness, which is fine. And with the hindrances, it's just nice to especially focus on the recognition part of it. The kind of calm knowing. Gail Fronsdale tells a legend about a sage who lived in a remote place and dispensed invaluable wisdom to people. And they would travel for 3 days on foot to get to him. he would sit for as long as it took to hear them out. And then he would say something. And to every single one, he asked them never to tell anyone else what he said. And to every single person, he said, "What are you not recognizing?" And initially, they'd be disappointed. They walked all this way just to hear that. But as they walked over 3 days to go home, his question kind of kept running through them. And over, they asked that question. And by the time they emerged back home, they were transformed. So clear recognition is like stepping out of our haziness, our muddiness, our preoccupation, and realizing, this is doubt. This is hostility. And it involves a release from our occupation. Not a detachment, not an emotional detachment, just a release so that we're not captured by it. So, doubt. Remember that in Buddhism, there's no requirement or emphasis on believing in any dogma. The Buddha said, don't believe in anything just because I have said it. Don't believe anything just because an elder or someone you respect has said it. Put it into practice. See for yourself if it is true. So there are two kinds of doubt. And one is the questioning doubt, which the Buddha encouraged. And that's an engaged mindset that opens us toward life. It involves feeling and looking carefully and deeply. I'm sure when you first encountered the Dharma, you probably did this. You asked, do these teachings make sense based on what I've felt in my life? And of course, Buddhism isn't like other faith traditions. Not all of them, but many seem to require belief in certain dogmas. So the next second kind of doubt is hindering doubt. And that's a skepticism that blocks us from life and from experience. And it's characterized by agitated thinking, discursive thinking, that is spinning. With doubt, we're usually lost in discursive thinking. It can arise because one common scenario is that a practitioner has expectations about what meditation should be. It should be very deep or exalted or blissful. And maybe you've had a peak experience, a kind of sit, and you're striving to duplicate it. I've had that. And, or maybe you've just heard that that's what meditation is supposed to be. So you are seeking that, you're striving for it. So with that expectation, or really with any expectation, when you sit down, you're likely to be less open because you have this idea in your mind. So, say that you have this idea and you sit down to meditate, and your mind is distracted, and you're fidgety, and you're bored. And the mind keeps thinking, and then you start judging yourself for not sitting very well. And then you become really frustrated and disappointed because you were hoping this sit would relieve all that tension. And we've probably all encountered this. And sometimes that can morph into hindering doubt, which makes us doubt the practice, the dharma, or we doubt ourselves. And in either case, it's kind of a lot of spinning thinking. So that the more doubt perpetuates itself, because the more that the thinking is agitated and spinning, you know from experience, the less likely that you can be present, that you can open your heart to whatever's happening. And I don't need to tell you that when you open your heart to a restless, bored sitting, if you really do that, if you're patient enough to just allow that, it can be rewarding. It is rewarding. Everything that we open up to and allow is the dharma. So the kind of doubt we're talking about closes us up. So if you're sitting and you're having these kinds of doubts or thoughts, maybe you haven't called them doubts yet because you don't know, you might ask, what is the kind of thinking that's going on? Not focusing on the content, but because later you can do that. You can, when you're settled, you can consider the substance of your thoughts. But is your thinking agitated and discursive and ruminating and kind of going around and around? Or is it settled and easeful? And as an aside, looking at the kind of thinking going on is a wonderful entry to mindfulness, no matter what the situation. With doubt, fear is often a major ingredient. So you might ask if your questions or thoughts are based on fear and anxiety. And that's feeling the tenor of the thinking, cutting through the content to feel its energy. And what we want to do is just allow it to be, allow that thinking and that energy to be. Holding it with mindfulness, with tenderness. And you might label it what you think it is, what the energy is. There's pressure. I feel pressure. There's a never-ending kind of anxiety or energy. We're not trying to banish it, but just to ask, what's here? We're not dismissing the content because it's always good to consider doubt or questions. Just noting what's happening in this moment. And is it possible to skillfully respond? You might try to settle the body by breathing deeply, feeling the body, feeling the hands or the feet. You might need to get up and walk or take some tea just to discharge that energy. Doubt is called the most threatening of the hindrances. And there are a couple major reasons. The first is that it can lead to outright quitting, simply walking away from the practice. And secondly, it's because doubt tends to have an authority. It's persuasive. And it's funny how we typically second guess ourselves when we practice, right? We're sitting down and we're asking, oh, am I too calm? Am I like falling asleep too calm? Shouldn't I be more alert? And if we're too bright and sort of energetic, we're thinking, oh, maybe I should have some stillness, shouldn't I? Where's the stillness? So, or am I walking right? But with hindering doubt, we tend to believe our thoughts. And if doubt comes from judging yourself as a meditator, it can be that you have unrealistic expectations. And it might help to reframe how you're looking at it and appreciate what you can do in meditation. Start where you are, as Pema Chodron says. If you can sit for 5 minutes, appreciate that. And also appreciate the sincere intention that brought you to the mat today and brings you every time you sit for 5 minutes. And it's really important to share your doubts and questions with a dharma friend or a teacher. You might get some clarity about the teachings and realize maybe you've misunderstood something. And you may still have doubt, and you might continue to explore it, live with it. Gil Fronsdale's discussions and teachings about doubt influenced me a lot. And he talks about this one retreat where it was an extended retreat, so a month or 3 months, I'm not sure, but there was a woman there who, right in the middle of it, packed up and flew home without talking to anyone. And as she herself describes it, during that flight, she just suddenly woke up and said, wait a minute, I had a multiple hindrance attack and I got caught up, especially in doubt. And I didn't need to do that. And as I said, she left without talking to anyone, which is, it reinforces that we learn and we get perspective and we get support from each other, because, which is especially important with doubt, because it does seem to have this authoritative voice. The first the first like almost week retreat I was on, I was looking, I spent more time than I ever had meditating, and I was looking at my thoughts, and I was realizing every less than generous thought I had about anyone. And soon I exclaimed to myself, I'm not even a good person. And that made me have doubt, made me have doubt about my worthiness. And I stuck with it. And in the end, I kind of let go of self-judgment. There was a lot of release and a lot of expansion. And in the beginning of my practice, I also used to feel that every sit was supposed to be very concentrated. And I don't know how long it took, but it was a while before I really learned that whatever the sit is, like if I can hold it with compassion, it's wonderful. It's growing. It's growth. But that took a while. So, what about faith? In the Theravada teachings, the Buddha says the proximate cause of faith is suffering. And most people do come to the Buddha's teachings, at least in the West, because they're suffering. For me, it was when my youngest child was 14 and she was having a crisis. And at the same time, my marriage felt loveless, and I was deciding what to do. And my husband and I had tried to make it work, and neither one of us was at fault. And I was just beset by guilt and shame and self-aversion and a huge dose of confusion. And I remember walking around a deserted baseball field near my house in the scorching heat. And I was literally just walking in somewhat small circles because that helped somehow soothe my thoughts, my torturous thoughts. And then I found meditation and the Dharma. So that was my experience. And I think that there are probably a million or billions of stories of suffering related to humans turning to the Dharma. And as I've practiced over the years, I found that my life experience confirms the basic tenets of the Dharma over and over. Sharon Salberg, in her book Faith, says she's reclaiming the word faith from its conventional usage. She says it doesn't have to refer to organized dogmatic religion, which sorts people into selected and excluded. It's not a commodity we either have or don't have. It doesn't dictate belief in a deity or not. And she says, I want to encourage delight in the world to help reclaim faith as fresh, vibrant, intelligent, and liberating. And then she says, what I love, what I feel is the core of her book. She says, faith is an inner quality that unfolds as we trust our deepest experience. Faith is said to be the seed of our spiritual practice. So, trust in our deepest experience brings us over and over back to practice. So we will close now doing a reflection on this. So sitting upright, extending the spine and torso upward, and relaxing the shoulders and the face and the belly. And choose one experience that touched you very deeply, a spiritual experience, on or off the cushion. The birth or death of a loved one, an experience of suffering that led to insight or growth, or something else entirely. Whatever it is that deeply touched you, so not analyzing it, but allowing the experience to take you in like it did the first time. Allowing it right here, right now. Opening up the mind, heart, body. Is there a felt sense in the heart, mind, body you're aware of? Was there a sense of wholeness that your body and heart and mind were all taken in together? Your heart and your body were not separate from your thinking, but you were a whole, entirely open to this and allowing. Sensing it now, wherever you feel it in the body, touching into it. in the chest or belly. Pausing now to really take it in. Allowing the sensations to grow. Letting them permeate the body, filling you up, trusting. It is possible to cultivate our trust in our deep experience, to remember moments of insight and growth and freedom that we've experienced through practice. We can draw from these things over and over to refresh our practice, to enliven it, to support us.